Welcome to the Parenting Tips Podcast. I'm Jeff Reiland, the host of this series. Has your child ever been frustrated when trying to open a container or put together a puzzle? They may make noises of frustration. They may utter words like, "I can't," or "it's too hard." This is a normal part of child development and a common situation for parents to encounter. It is also a great opportunity to help your child to begin to learn the important life skill of problem solving. Children can start to learn these skills when they are very young, but that doesn't mean they've mastered them. When you help your child to learn to problem solve, you are helping to build a strong foundation of skills for their lifetime. In this episode, we will focus on helping children solve problems with learning new skills or tasks when they get frustrated. While there is great overlap between this and teaching children to problem solve interpersonal conflicts in situations like with their siblings, fighting over toys or which seat to sit in the car, we'll discuss conflicts between children in a future episode. Whose job is it to teach problem solving? One of the challenges parents face is knowing how to help their child solve problems. As parents, we can't be present every single moment when our child becomes frustrated because they are overwhelmed by a problem. And if we're able to hover over them and solve all of their problems, we would not be preparing them very well for life. Ultimately, children need to learn how to manage the strong emotions that often accompany problem situations. But parents are the ones who have to introduce strategies to the child for solving problems. In our role as parents, we are teaching our children to manage situations and solve problems themselves in order to be successful and achieve their goals. Why is learning problem solving important? Well, here are the positives. Problem solving builds confidence and skill in decision making. When children figure things out, they often experience a sense of pride. They've accomplished something. When children begin to build a positive record of figuring things out, solving problems, they gain more confidence that they can do it. Whether it's learning to tie shoes, ride a bike, or learn a new game, children can master the task with persistence and practice. Children who grow up with a positive sense of "I can do it" are more likely to try new things and learn new things than children who don't. On the downside of this, when children don't learn how to problem solve, it can discourage decision-making and taking action for fear of being wrong. This can lead a child to give up quickly if something initially seems too hard. Learning problem-solving skills is age and development dependent. One of the tasks that you as a parent are faced with is determining if the task or problem your child is faced with is appropriate for their age and development. There are many ways to determine this. If your child is struggling with a task, you may ask yourself if other children his or her age seem to be able to do the task. It is possible that when other same-age children are not doing what you're expecting of your child, it may be too hard. There are many developmental charts that can give parents clues about what kinds of tasks children should be able to learn and master at specific ages. The Center for Disease Control website has a good developmental chart for children age birth through 5. Penn State University has a helpful PDF developmental chart for school-age children ages 5 through 12. Please check out these resources in the show notes of this podcast. You may find it helpful to go over these charts and see where your child is at developmentally and get a sense of what could be expected for your child's age. Evidence-based models for problem solving for young children have several essential components. The first is to help the child identify and imagine the emotions that they're feeling about the problem. The second component is to identify the possible solutions and evaluate each one. And the third component is to choose the best solution and implement it. For children ages 3 to 5, there are a few tips you can consider in teaching problem solving. The first tip is to help your child to identify the emotions they're feeling. Very often, children are beginning to become dysregulated when they're stuck with a problem. Helping them to identify and express the feelings they're having is a great first step. Remember, young children are still learning to manage emotions. For example, if your child looks like they're getting upset because they can't open a container of toys, you might say, "You look like you're getting frustrated with that container because the top is not coming off for you." Connecting the emotions you're seeing to the behaviors and expressions your child is exhibiting helps them to connect the dots between the emotions, their thoughts, and actions. You can say, "Tell me where you're getting stuck," or "Show me the hard part." The next step is to help them process their feelings and stay calm so they can solve the problem. You can say, "Let's take a deep breath and take a minute." "Okay, great. Now let's take another look at that top and see why it's so hard to open. How is it attached?" "Oh, I see there's a lever here and another one on the other side. Can you see them? How do you think they're opened? Maybe we can see which way it moves." "Good. Pulling up opens this side. What do you think would happen if you pull up on the other side?" "Great. You now know how to open this box of toys. Thanks for staying calm to learn how to do this." Teaching very young children how to problem solve involves a fair amount of hand-over-hand guidance and modeling. It takes time and practice for both parents and children to learn to stay calm in order to problem solve. As children grow, so does their ability to manage emotions and their opportunities to be exposed to ever more complex problems. From age 5 to 7, it's still important to start with emotions, helping your child identify them and work to remain calm. The second step is to make a short list of possible solutions for the problem. 2 or 3 is all that are needed to teach children how to solve a problem. There may be one really great one and 2 so-so solutions. Part of learning is trial and error. Sometimes there's only one safe way, and this should always be the one to focus on. It all depends on the situation and the problem. If the problem has a couple of reasonable solutions, it's a good idea to try to weigh the pros and cons of each solution before deciding. Pick the solution that seems to have the best path. Afterwards, review with your child if this approach worked. It's important to have a feedback loop to help your child remember this process and whether or not it was successful. Open-ended questions invite children to think more about the problem situation at hand. The great thing about open-ended questions is that there are no right or wrong answers. Good open-ended questions tend to open up the discussion and don't usually end with yes or no answers. Here are some examples. What have you tried so far to work out the problem? Where do you think what you tried went wrong? What do you think might happen if you did it this way? What would you do different the next time this problem comes up? Or how did the solution you decided on turn out? As children grow, it remains important to continue to recognize the big emotions that sometimes hinder decision-making and help your child remain calm. Children ages 7 to 9 still need support in learning how to problem solve. Sometimes more complex problems can be overwhelming for kids. They may not know where to start or what order to do something in. Breaking down problems into manageable parts can be helpful for children. You might start the conversation by having the child show you where they are and where they may be getting stuck. "Let me see what you've done so far," or "Show me where you're getting stuck with this problem." Listen to your child's efforts to describe the problem. From ages 9 to 11, as children grow, their skills for problem solving will also grow. You can help this along by modeling your own problem solving, talking out loud about how you solve problems, or taking the time to have your child write down the steps they might use to solve a problem, breaking the problem into manageable chunks of time or tasks. Let's talk about strategies that you can use to help your child develop those important problem-solving skills. The first one is modeling. One of the best ways for children to learn how to problem solve is to watch you problem solve. You already know that your child picks up on many things you do, even if you wish they didn't. Here is an opportunity for you to shine. When you are faced with a problem, consider solving it in front of your child so they can see you do it. Another strategy to teach problem solving is to ask your child's advice. What do they think is a possible solution to the problem? Just because your child has an idea doesn't mean you'll have to take their advice. And sometimes kids have great ideas. The important big picture goal here is to communicate to your child that their thoughts and ideas matter to you. Many solutions are the result of compromise and collaboration, bringing the best parts of different ideas together. If your child doesn't have ideas, you can walk them through several that you think up and help them to see how this process works. Hold off on the answer. Let your kids think about it. Sometimes we parents, and I include myself in this group, are in too big of a rush to fix the problem for our children. Sometimes we don't have a choice because there's a time crunch. But sometimes it's okay to take your time and let your child think about the problem for a while. This approach can encourage children to keep trying and be persistent rather than give up quickly or expect you to fix or solve the problem for them. Set a good example. It's very likely that you solve problems every day and your child has no idea about how you do it. One way that your child can know that you are a problem solver is if you talk out loud about the problem and look at options for solutions, weighing the pros and cons, or breaking down the steps to complete the task. By talking out loud about this, your child will begin to understand that there's a process for solving problems. Self-talk is a great way for children to think more carefully about the problem, breaking down the steps into chunks, and experiencing success. When you talk out loud, children learn that we all have problems to solve, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. They can do it too. Get your children involved in problem solving with family matters and decisions when it's appropriate. If it's a rainy day, what kinds of activities or games can your child do in the house? If you're looking to go to a park, what two good options are available that your child can help you identify in problem solving? How much time do you have to go to the park? How far away is the park? Will it be a busy time to go? What activities would your child like to do there? What is the weather going to be like? All of these factors can play into making that decision. It's important to get some input from children on some decisions that you as a family will make. Having fun and memorable experiences with your child does not have to cost money. Something important to remember when your child is dysregulated is to keep the focus on the problem that is right in front of them. As an adult, you can see the big picture. You can see down the road. You have adult wisdom. Kids are usually focused on the here and now. Sometimes kids begin to awfulize and take that small problem and blow it up into something that's really big. You might notice this happens when they're tired or overwhelmed. Rather than argue with them about the problem being big or small, keep the focus on calming down, then helping them break it down and solve it. Another way to do this is to introduce your child to a game that helps them learn how to manage their emotions and problem solve. This game is called Big Deal or Little Deal, and it's just a series of questions that you or they pose, like, is it a big deal or a little deal if you spill your milk? This is a conversation game that engages your child in decision-making and deciding if something is typical but not actual in the moment situations. Is it big or little? And how they'd fix it. This is a two-question game. The first question, is it a big deal or a little deal, usually is related to some typical thing that happens in everyday life with kids, and it helps you to assess how your child views the problem. Their answer is a clue to their emotions in the moment. The second question, how would you fix it, or how would you make it smaller, engages a child in flexible thinking and problem solving. It's important to know that this game is only helpful if it's played often, even daily, as practice. It can be played on car rides, while waiting in line, at dinner, or bedtime. Anyone can ask the question. Family members can take turns. We go in detail about this game in episode 17 of this podcast series. To summarize, we've been talking about the importance of children learning how to solve problems. Problem solving is a great life skill. Kids can learn it best when parents come alongside them and help them to stay calm, manage their own emotions, and think about solutions. You can help when you model how to solve problems, ask your child for advice when appropriate so they can learn how problems are solved, avoid fixing the problem for your child immediately, talk out loud about the problems you solve when you can, get your children involved in problem solving with family matters and decisions when it's appropriate, focus on problems in the moment, and playing games for problem-solving practice like Big Deal or Little Deal. Parents experience great satisfaction when their child learns new things and one day achieves mastery. Learning to solve problems is a skill learned over a lifetime. The building blocks for this skill start with you and your child's early years. There are many ways you can practice problem solving in everyday situations. By doing this, you will be growing your child's skill and confidence in decision making and preparing them for their future. Thank you for tuning in and considering this parenting topic. I hope that this information added to your growing toolbox for parenting your child or children. Please consider exploring other topics in this series. Remember, no one parenting tool can do everything. We need many tools to become the best parents for our children. Your children's future depends on you and the time and effort you invest in them today.